Hey everyone. You know, in this era, this time of what's known as the reboot, the remake. We all hope we all hope and pray that when Hollywood gets its hands on a property that people like me or you have enjoyed growing up, and they plan to turn it into a big screen movie, thus rebooting it in a sense. Or they want to reboot it as a television series or a cartoon series for a new generation, but they also want to appeal to that older generation. One of the things we as fans are afraid of is they're going to screw it up. Now, there have been some cases where a franchise has been rebooted and it's actually done very well. Hasbro's My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is a good example. True, it's its own original thing, but it's rebooted to the point that the older fans that grew up on the original My Little Pony and this new generation have something in common. And I think, in a sense, they've also referenced the older G1 My Little Ponies with all these reimaginings of characters from that old series, as well as maybe pay homage to the original G1 series with certain references in word or flashbacks or something. Now Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles does the same thing, but they do it in a way that's unique as well, and it helps bring in both the older and newer generations together. One of the things they do is they reimagine certain characters that were either enemies or allies of the Turtles. They reimagined characters like Mondo Gecko, uh, the the Punk Frogs, you know, just to name a few. Mona Lisa, most recently, and again, just to name a few, just to name a few. As well as in a sense, they reimagined, of course, not my favorite decision on their part, not my favorite decision, but they reimagined April and Casey as teenagers and have made April half mutant. Again, not my favorite decision, but I guess it's in a way to reimagine this as a different alternate universe. Why is that? Because there are several indications, as well as upcoming indications in the next few weeks, that they do acknowledge that the Ninja Turtles we're watching on Nickelodeon right now are set in a different universe, a different dimension. It's not the same Turtle universe that we've seen in the 80s/90s. We saw briefly with Next Mutation, if you want to count that as canon, or with the 2003 to 2009 series, or 2003 to 2010 series, that is. It's a different continuity, it's a different universe. And it's acknowledged, like I said, and I think in a season 2 episode, at the end, doing a season 2 episode, as well as it gets acknowledged in an upcoming episode in the next few weeks. So again, there are shows that do a good job at this. But even though they do a good job at it, there are other properties out there that have yet to be touched or have been touched that when they've gotten rebooted and remade, either as television series or mostly movies, have not been in the favor of a lot of people. Not in the favor of the older generation of fans that grew up on them, and not in the favor of that new generation that they're trying to get to. Now, the question is though, can Hollywood, excuse me there, learn from its mistakes? and I think they can. Apparently, some people, for example, at Sony, are learning from their mistakes because next year they're releasing a all animated Smurfs movie, the way that many people felt it should have been in the first place. Now, now I'm not saying that there was nothing wrong with the first two Smurfs movies. I'm not saying anything was wrong with them. I thought they were okay. I thought they were fine. I didn't watch all of it all the way through, but I watched enough to kind of say, yeah, it's all right. It's good. I think I think the reason you had a movie like that happen, as well as you've had movies like Fat Albert happen the way they did in a similar situation, is mostly due to the fact that it was sort of a trend at the time. It's a trend that people that other studios saw other studios being successful with. Garfield was a despite what you want to say, the first Garfield movie was a huge hit. So, of course, Fox capitalized on it with another movie which wasn't that big of a hit, but still it was a big enough hit that other studios like Sony and even Fox continued this themselves by doing movies based doing these live action CGI hybrids. I mean, Disney right now, as far as we know, is still sort of in the pre-production, pre-working stage of a Chippendale Rescue Rangers live action CGI movie. We don't know when it's going to come out, but hopefully we'll hear something during this year. Sonic is getting a movie in 2018, CGI and live action. So it's that trend is still there, but they're trying to, I guess, improve on it. Disney might be better at what they're going to do. Might be. I'm not saying they will be. But they might be better at this whole live action adaptation deal. You know, they might be better at it, they may not be better. Sony, on the other hand, with Sega or their Sammy division, might be looking at going in a different direction with it because what they'll be doing basically is trying to make a movie aimed for a PG-13 rating. So that might help them too. But those are up in the air as to if they're going to be, as if whether or not they will be hits or they won't be hits. Now, like I said, sometimes a remake or a reboot or reimagining could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. Speaking of Sonic Boom, as I just said, is a huge hit on television. The games, on the other hand, haven't proven to be so well, maybe with exception of the most recent one, but they haven't proven to be that good. The series, however, is a huge hit, to the point that it's got a second season coming. So obviously the reboot, reimagining of Sonic and the Sonic Boom cartoon is working out well for them. And again, it all depends on how it's received by the audience. Scooby Doo is a huge example of this as well. How many times has he been rebooted over? The most recent time was Mystery Incorporated, and that kind of got a mixed reaction. Some liked it because it was deeper, darker, and grittier than the normal Scooby Doo, and more like a teen graphic novel or mystery novel, just the way it was set up. And some didn't like it because it really strayed away from what made Scooby Doo good. And now you get this Be Cool Scooby Doo, which is animated similar to what you see with American Dad and everything. And again, there's a mixed reaction there. Some are cool with how the characters are being portrayed, and some are not. So, it all depends on a preference. But again, like I said, there are times when both sides, the older and new generation, will agree on something being either good or bad. And when Hollywood gets their hands on it, sometimes it all depends on on how good or bad it's going to turn out. Now, there are several properties that I was thinking about, and I know let's see, I'm about 10 minutes in, so I'm sorry about rambling. But there are several properties that recently I've been thinking about. One, of course, as I've been really focusing on a lot on just to get ready because I'm going to be getting the set soon from Media Bailout, courtesy of iOffer, and that's Kid Video. And when I look at Kid Video, here's something that I think I asked the question in the cartoon flashback, could it work today? And if when thinking about it, I kind of mentioned that it probably wouldn't be able to work today. I mean, it could, essentially, but it'd be a little bit more of a struggle for it to work. I mean, if a reboot, a remake of Kid Video was to air on Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or Disney, then yeah, they have a good chance of being able to reincorporate what made Kid Video popular in the 4 years that it was on network television, as well as on the following years that it was in syndication. So so yeah, if they were to air it on Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or or even or even Disney, like I was saying. So I was just thinking there for a second. Uh, I think they have a very good chance at being able to recreate what made Kid Video, the original Kid Video, just as good, and that's incorporating a lot of the elements that made it fun, made it popular, made it unique, kind of one of those WTF shows that you just had to watch, and by just having to watch it, you gained an interest, you gained a liking for it. So, like I said, if a cable channel like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or Disney were to get it, then like I said, there's a good chance they could reincorporate or kind of recreate that format. And that format, of course, included showcasing a minute and a half to 2.5 minutes worth of music videos, and sometimes a minute and a half or 2 minutes worth of a song from an artist in the episode. But here's the only problem I think could happen. Now let's take a look at Kid Video. And I mentioned this in my flashback. If Disney was to obtain the rights to remake Kid Video and make it, in a sense, similar to its original format, then there might be some major changes. One of the major changes, of course, would be the music videos that would be shown would be Disney related. They'd either be by the Disney Channel artist or be music videos based on the recent Disney movies. Like, for example, if Kid Video was remade now and aired now on Disney XD in a sense, then one of the music videos they probably showcased during the episode would be Try Everything by Shakira from Zootopia. That would be one of the video clips. It might just be the minute and a half video clip or something, but they would show it. That'd be that'd be an example of what I'm talking about. True, Shakira is not a Disney Channel artist, but her song is part of a Disney movie, so it would connect. Same thing with the Disney Channel stars. If they wanted to, like let's say Kid Video got remade and with a similar format, and one of the music videos got choked, and during one of the episodes they went to a scene where they're about to showcase a music video. You take the Disney Channel stars, and they could end up showcasing maybe a minute and a half of their Circle of Life music video. You kind of catch my drift, right? Or they would showcase a minute and a half of Christy Ramona's Could It Be, Christy Carlson Ramona's Could It Be, from her album and from Kim Possible. They could end up doing that. That to me would be the only problem with Disney doing getting the rights to do a Kid Video remake as a series, is the fact that the music videos would be Disney related music videos. That's how I look at it. Now, if Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon were to get it, then there's a better chance that most of the music videos could be from various artists um, out there, besides just, like I said, just regulated to uh, one company's artist or singers. If it goes on to Warner Brother, if it goes on to Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, then you have the chance that, like I said, you have a better chance of a variety of music videos from current artists of today and even yesterday, having the music videos show up in that kid video remake. Like I said, more so than Disney Channel, because Disney Channel, like I said, or Disney XD, would be more focused on putting the Disney music videos and the Disney music in the episodes than than that huge variety of artists and songs that are out there. So to me, if Kid Video was to get that chance to be remade made into a series, I think the best chance for a network or cable channel picking them up or picking that idea up and greenlighting it to be aired on their network would be Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon. That's just my belief, my opinion, if you will. Now, if Hulu or Amazon and Netflix was trying to obtain the rights to do a kid video remake, that might be a little bit more difficult because they're sort of in the same veins as a YouTube, a Daily Motion, and a Vimeo, basically due to the fact that they're a streaming service and being an online service, they would have to pay more out of their pockets to be able to try to recreate that familiar atmosphere that the original kid video series put out. So they would have to really pay more to the record labels and stuff just to be able to get that format, that similar recognizable format of kid video into their version, into their reboot or remake of kid video than Cartoon Network and Nicktoons and Disney would ever have to do. Because the difference is, unlike Cartoon Network, Disney, and Nickelodeon, who are both on-air cable and at times online networks, Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu, and all of them, they're online streaming services. So it would cost them money out of their pockets, in my opinion, to make that happen. Now, another thing about Kid Video is it could also be in the category of getting a big screen remake. And this is where, if you're a fan of Kid Video, this is where you might get a little worried. Because if Kid Video was to get a remake on the big screen, then nowadays, knowing Hollywood, your biggest worry is they'll just turn it into a freaking musical. There'll be no music videos whatsoever or relation to them. There'll be no songs in the background like we'd known before in the original. It'd mostly be a musical. Basically, I think the biggest fear for anybody, if a kid video movie was to be made for a new generation, I think the biggest worry is it would be sort of like in the same veins of what Gem and the Holograms movie was. Basically, it'd be like that. And I know, honestly, and this is my honest opinion, I know from a fact, even though I haven't seen the movie yet, but just seeing what they did trailer wise, and then obviously the obvious reaction and outcome, the downfall of it, which was obvious from the beginning. I know for a fact I would not want to see a kid video movie done in that same way. I would not want to see that. If anything, I'd want to see a kid video movie that's similar to what the kid video property was about. Yeah, throw in a music video here and there. And by throwing in a music video, you actually have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more liberty to show the entire music video. Heck, you could use the kid video movie as the place to world premiere a music video before it hits on demand or Vivo or wherever. That would be a great place to put it. And you can also use songs established or debuting for the first time in there as well. Instead of just probably making it into a musical or making it into another Gem and the Holograms movie, which nobody wants to see, which everybody fears could happen. So hopefully, if Hollywood was to do that, instead of rebooting it as a series, then I hope and pray that they make it a movie that stays true to what Kid Video was, and not make it into some musical or another gem clone. Now, other series out there have the potential to be rebooted as television series and as movies. Now, we know that Disney's got DuckTales coming up. And Andre of Black Nude Comedy's already talked about his thoughts on what it could be like. And some people have commented in the comment section of what they feel it could come out of it. Now, I'm looking forward to this, especially since it's 2D, and it might be in the same veins as the current Mickey Mouse shorts they're doing. But here's one problem that I kind of read one comment, and this is one thing that I think is not going to happen. And if it does, tell me where it's happened in the Carl Barks comics. Okay. Now apparently it looks like Webby is back, although he could be misinterpreted as Daisy as well. But I would have to say it's Webby. One person in the comments section said, because Andre pointed this out, that she looks like she's now the same age as the boys. She's kind of in that teen mode. But here's the thing. Being in that teen mode, same age as the boy, it's Huey, Dewey, and Louie. One person pointed out in the comments section that they can end up making Webby into a love interest, maybe falling in love with one of the boys, and vice versa. To me, that would kind of defeat the purpose. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. Knowing Disney, it just might if they go that direction. But I don't think that's a direction they need to go in. Not that I'm not in favor of either all three or at least one of the boys having a love interest, having a girlfriend. It's just that when I saw their interaction with Webby in the series, they treated Webby as if she was like a little sister. It's like, they're brothers and all that, and they treated Webby like their little sister, even though she was not blood related or anything. They treated her like a little sister or a little cousin. That was it. Nothing more. So for Disney to do what this one person's thinking they might do by having her be the same age and having her probably fall in love with one of the guys or slowly develop feelings for one of the boys would defeat the purpose of what Webby's relationship with the boys was in the original series. Because if this is going to somewhat be a straight up continuation, because the kids are older, or looks like they're older, from the first series, then you got to keep it true, in my opinion, to what made DuckTales what it is. And to me, you cannot have Webby fall in love with one of the guys and vice versa. You can't have that because that defeats the dynamic. Now, I know some of you might say, well, they're growing up. Maybe things have changed. I'm not saying they haven't changed. I'm just saying that it's more along the lines of they treated her like a little sister, a little cousin. So that would defeat the purpose. So by having her fall in love with either Huey or Louie or Dewey and vice versa would be defeating the purpose. It would defeat the purpose of what made DuckTales what it is, and would be one of the main defeats of this being a true continuation of the series, because it's not staying true to what made the series good, to what got the series a freaking movie in 1990. Now, is it going to be any good? Obviously, if they bring back some of the same writers and maybe even some of the writers of the Mickey Mouse shorts to work on it, then I have to say, yeah, I think it will be good. Just by the image, it looks like it's going to be good. It looks like it's going to be great. It just, let's just hope they don't mess it up. In a sense, I'm not against Webby finding a love interest, a boyfriend, and I'm not against the boys. One of them, or if not all three of them, finding girlfriends, love interest. But just to have Webby fall in love with one of them would defeat the purpose. I'd be more acceptive if they go the route that we saw in Beak to the Future, where she falls in love with someone like Doofus. I'd be fine with that. If they bring the Doofus character back and she becomes his love interest and vice versa, I'd be okay with that. But not the other way around. So it would defeat the purpose of them treating each other almost like siblings. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, Brian, you support Cubby and Sunny. Yeah, I support Cubby and Sunny. Sunny, I do, and I still support them because technically I'm not the only one. Okay, I'm not the only one, and I know that. You know, and there's just too many clues in Gummy Bears to kind of give it away that had they gone another show, another few seasons or something, that something would have happened. I'm not denying that. I still believe that they would have hooked Cubby and Sunny up there. And I'm not saying because they treated each other like brother and sister. You guys got a right to that, and you got people that support that idea have a right to their opinion. And you know what? You're probably right. Maybe if Disney would have continued the series, made a movie, maybe they'd still be treating each other like brother and sister, and maybe they'd end up with different love interests in the future. And that's fine. I'm cool with that. But the way I look at it, the way they set that series up, the way they did with some of the episodes and stuff, I cannot deny what would have been. I mean, you have Cubby hanging out with Calvin and Sunny hanging out with Calla. Calla. You had Cubby hanging out with Calvin. You had Sunny hanging out with Calla. And you knew there was something there between Calvin and Calla. So if you have the best friends having some kind of, attraction to each other, the two best human friends, then you know that in a sense has to rub off maybe on them down the line. So I'm just saying, I'm just theorizing. But the way I looked at it though, with Webby was, let's face it, the way she was described, she was a lot younger than the boy. She was younger than Cubby if you want to look at age-wise. So I would have to, and the way it was presented more so, it wasn't like, it just was not in the same, and it's based off Carl Barks stories. So it was just something that you could see the big difference. And I know that sounds confusing, that sounds random, that sounds like an excuse, and I don't blame you for believing that, or looking at it like that. But I look at it more like, there was just more of a true family dynamic than you had with Gummy Bears. Gummy Bears, basically, yeah, they were all under one tree, under one roof, but there was not that, and there was a family dynamic, but not like a strong, legit family dynamic. It's like they were together, but there was no blood relation. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you could say the same for Webby and the boys and all that, fine. But it's just the way the boys reacted sometimes to her. They treated her like a little sister. Did Sunny treat Cubby like a little brother? Not really. Did Cubby treat her like a big sister? Not really. Really. They treated each other like, at sometimes mostly like equals, as best friends. So that's why I think that would have been more of a legit chance of a pairing getting together that I would accept than something with Webby being with one of the boys. Again, I could accept her being with Doofus, maybe even Bubba Duck, but not with one of the boys because it's just too close to home. If you know what I'm saying. Now, speaking of gummy, finishing up on that. Hopefully, if they don't go that route, I could see the series being good, and hopefully, it stays true to what made the original Ducktales what it was, and maybe they might add in some new elements, and maybe adapt a few things from the Carl Barks, Uncle Scrooge stories that were not adapted in the original run of Ducktales. So hopefully, we'll get that. Speaking of gummy bears, I would love to see a reboot of that. I would love to see a reboot, and I think what they're doing with DuckTales, if they were to bring gummy bears back, go in that direction as well. Continue where you left off. Maybe do the few years later deal. I really think that could help them out. I really think it could. Do it a few years later, have the characters be older, and yes, start maybe teasing the fact that there might be something. You don't have to go there, but tease at the fact that there might be something between Cubby and Sunny now, since they're basically older and almost at that same age level and stuff. Of course, you're gonna make them look bigger and taller, so maybe Cubby just a little bit taller than Sunny, or about the same height, but still, kind of start teasing that there might be something there. I really think it could work if they go in that direction of like with DuckTales. Obviously, it looks like what they're doing with DuckTales, and that's continue where they left off. So I think that could really help out the series. A reboot continuation of the Gummy Bear series. I really think it could work. And you have that whole rest of Dunwin and the whole rest of the world they could explore. It could really work. And like I said, you could tease that there might be something there between Cubby and Sunny. You don't have to go in that direction, but you could tease it. And then you can make them question, why am I feeling this way for Sunny? And why is she, like you could have Cubby go like, why am I feeling this way for Sunny? And you could have Sunny ask that same question, because then they could start thinking, why are we feeling this way for each other? We've lived with each other practically our whole lives. We're almost like siblings, even though we're not blood related or anything. Why are we feeling like this? So you could work it out like that. So, and maybe come up with a decision of whether or not you want to put them together, or you just want to be like, hey, there is acknowledge that, yeah, there is an attraction between us, but because we live together, it might be best if we just remain as friends or best friends. So it could work. Go in that direction, it could work. And again, you got so much you could explore with, because you basically sort of end the series on a bit of a cliffhanger with the fact that the great gummies are coming back, and if you have them coming back and you can introduce new characters, what kind of adventures could that create? What kind of maybe tension could that create? Like, let's say you want to tease that attraction, maybe start off by making them acknowledge, hey, there is something there, but let's remain as friends or best friends because we lived with each other so long. And then you have suddenly these new characters come in, this new female gummy, this new male gummy coming in, and start, kind of being attracted to Cubby and Sunny, and all of a sudden there's this jealousy that starts to boil, but starts to develop, like with Sunny seeing this new female gummy with Cubby, and vice versa. She starts to feel a little jealous, and then Cubby could feel the same way. He sees this male gummy with Sunny, he could start feeling jealous, and in a sense, you could create tension there that maybe in the long run, you could, you could build towards finally getting them together if you choose to do so. But I think that would work, and I think you could also create tension and drama within the gummy and the the gummy bears as well, because you could have some of the great gummies that come back over, and they could be the kind of gummies that you don't trust, that are power hungry, that are more like, hey, that we're in it for ourselves and we don't care about what happens. You could do that. I mean, there's so many possibilities. As far as a movie reboot, I would have to agree that if they were to go a movie reboot and sort of go in the same vein and direction of a live action CGI hybrid, that a retelling of the origin would be in order. There's no doubt that a retelling of the origin would be in order, and in a sense, you can actually expand on it. You can actually expand on the origin more so than you did in the first 30 minutes in the 30-minute pilot of the cartoon series. So by doing a movie that's based on the origin, you can based on that origin story of how Calvin met the gummies and whatnot, you can really expand more on that history between the gummies and the humans, and just really through this movie, this uh, retelling of the origin could really get older fans that go and see it to recognize or kind of accept that yes, they're retelling the origin the way, in a sense, of the way it was originally told in the cartoon series, but you could also appreciate that they're adding new elements in there to attract that new audience, a family of kids and all that, but also expand on that gummy bear universe. So I think if they were to do a live action, if they were to do a movie adaptation of the gummy bears, that I definitely think a retelling of the origin would be in order, but it could be done in such a way that you could see the elements of the original origin story from the cartoon series thrown in there as sort of like a reference or sort of a nostalgic pop, for the people watching that grew up, for the people that would go to the theaters and see it that grew up on gummy bears, as well as you would have more of an expansion, as well as you're able to add in these newer elements that allow for the expansion of the story to go further than the 30 minutes the 30-minute pilot allowed it to. So I really think I really think if done right and done in that way, a reboot, a movie reboot of Gummy Bears and the origin would definitely be in order. Probably the best way to go. So that's what I would like to see. That's what I would like to see right off the bat. Now, if I was to pick one show out of the Hasbro lineup that I think could be more receptive, not just as a reboot as an animated series, but more along the lines could be more accepted as a reboot in a movie like setting, I would have to say it would be Inhumanoids. I think Inhumanoids would probably be the I think an animated reboot might be good, kind of stay true to what made Inhumanoids what it was, you know, but I definitely think a movie would probably be the best way to go, because if you were to do a remake, an animated reboot series of Inhumanoids, it may not, you wouldn't be able to do what they got away with back in the 80s. You wouldn't be able to do it now. Unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to. But if you did do a big screen remake of it, a big screen reboot of Inhumanoids, sort of live action, CGI, whatever, then it would be more accepted there. And you can actually go as far as to probably almost getting it not a PG-13 rating, but you can get an R rating just because of what's involved. Hasbro could actually do something they have not done yet, as far as I know, and they can get themselves a freaking R-rated movie with an Inhumanoids big screen remake. I'm just saying. I mean, they could borderline it with PG-13 because there's a lot of these thriller horror PG-13 movies out there, thriller horror movies that have the PG-13 rating. But I definitely think Inhumanoids the could definitely be the crossing the wire, crossing over. You know, think of something like Starship Troopers. You might look at that from afar and think, "Oh, it looks like it's a PG-13 sci-fi movie." But when you look at the rating, it's actually R. Very eerily similar to what Inhumanoids was in a sense, right? Almost. But I think if Hasbro was to do an Inhumanoids reboot, a big screen adaptation might be more safer than doing an animated adaptation, if you catch my drift. And again, it could definitely allow them to finally cross that line into maybe R-rated territory by getting the first R-rated movie with an Inhumanoids live-action film. So that's why I think, and that's why I think they should go with an Inhumanoids reboot if they were to do it. And by doing it that way, if it becomes a success, you could do so much more with it. You can expand on it, if you will. So that's why I think they should go with an Inhumanoids reboot if they do one. Now, to close this out, I will say that one of the one of the reboots that a lot of people want to happen, or remakes or recontinuations, is the Sonic SatAM series. Now, we know with the movie coming out in 2018, there might be more interest for something like this to occur. But if I was to be real, if I was to be real, I'd say there is more of a chance of rebooting the series and the characters in the current Archie Comics style of storytelling and design, which basically means the redesign of the characters, the soft retcon, soft reboot redesign of the characters and the continuity. I think that would be more of a chance to be the catalyst, to be the foundation for a Sonic SatAM reboot than continuing a third season. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't continue a third season. They could. They could continue it. There have been a lot of a lot of live action and animated shows that have done that, and it's happened years and years after the series has gone off the air. But I think the best bet, though, probably more so than doing a third season, which is still possible. Heck, you got the season three people working on a animated web edition of a web animated web continuation of season three, not just in comic form but in animation form at Fans United for SatAM. So you got that going on, but from an official, more legit reasoning, a more official, and more realistic reasoning, I think a reboot of SatAM in the style of the current Archie comics run of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic would probably be more likely than an official continuation of the original SatAM series. I just feel it would be. You know, again, you have a group of people right now as we speak working on and off and on, on an web exclusive animated continuation of season 3 along with a webcomic at Fans United for SatAM that'll pretty much, hopefully when it's all said and done, will satisfy people, will make them happy. But from a more official, realistic standpoint, a reboot of SatAM could only happen, and probably will only happen, if done in the style of what we read right now currently in the Archie Sonic the Hedgehog book. And I'm talking story-wise, I'm talking character design-wise, everything. That's the only way I could see it happening. Now, again, I'm not saying the third season officially couldn't be done. The only way I'd see it being done, though, is if the characters of Sally, Bunny, Rotor, and Antoine and Sonic and all of them are redesigned to look like what they do in the Archie comics right now. And I'm sure a lot of you would say, well, heck, if that's the case, if that's one of the ways we can get the third season off the ground officially, then so be it. We'll take it. And true, we would. And I'll be in favor of it. I would be. But honestly, if they were to do an official reboot of Sonic SatAM in some sense, in some way, it'd basically be in the style of what you read right now in the Archie comic books. That's who it would be, story-wise, character design-wise, everything. So that's how I see a Sonic SatAM reboot officially, if not realistically, happening. Would be basically, you know, this it would basically be the same as what you're reading in the comics right now, storyline and character wise. That's how, again, that's how I see a Sonic SatAM reboot, remake reboot happening. Would be as if it was in the same style, story wise and character design wise that you see right now in the current Archie Sonic the Hedgehog comic book. So that's the only way I see officially and realistically Sonic SatAM reboot happening. If it was happening, if it was to happen. Now, will it happen? Hopefully, maybe, because you got the movie coming out. You got this year being the 25th anniversary of Sonic. You got the movie coming out in 2018, which ironically is the 25th anniversary of that series, of the original SatAM series. So hopefully we might get something like that. We might. But again, I think a more realistic way of it happening is if it's done in this current style of what we read in the Archie comic books right now. So again, I'm not saying I'm not in favor of continuing the third season officially, but I think the more honest way that it's going to happen, if they were to do that, if they were to say, yeah, let's do season 3, is if they redesign the characters to look like what they do in the comics right now. So, but honestly, a legit remake of Sonic SatAM would probably only happen officially if done in the same style of what you're reading in the Archie comic books right now. So, that's so basically overall, folks. That's my take on reboots on possible reboots of shows, possible reboots, into movies and shows, and my thoughts on upcoming reboots as well. Let me know what you guys think down below. What are your thoughts on some of my ideas of possible reboots and how they can be done? And let me know what your thoughts are on the reboots that are upcoming. Let me know down below. Comment if you like. And I am out. God bless. Take care.